Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of The Beckoning. This is the third episode, but they're sort of freestanding, so don't worry too much about it if you missed the previous two. I'm Chris, the Primogen, on YouTube, and we also have, it should be pointing up on the stream.
Hi, I'm Josh. I'm the one streaming this, but I also run Strange Adventures if you're into vampires and role-playing, or if you're into silly video game stuff, Gaming FTL on YouTube.
Yes.
We also have
Huddy. I'm Huddy from Huddyvonschland on YouTube. I make Vampire the Masquerade lore videos, among other things. And unfortunately, we don't have Outstar with us today because she's busy.
She's missing in action.
Is far too important.
Oh, totes. Totes important.
If you're listening to us in your car right now, we're putting in a blood hunt on you.
She said she'd listen to her car, so.
Yeah. So, as you probably know, Outstar starred in the premiere episode, and will obviously be in all the other episodes, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Vain Pursuit, the new tabletop role-playing actual play on White Wolf, A World of Darkness. That's what
World
they're called, right?
Darkness.
World of Darkness, yeah.
Yeah, that's what they're called.
Yeah, I was just like, is it White Wolf Stream or is it World of Darkness Stream? It's World of Darkness. So they're branching out again, which is great, because that was an amazing episode, first episode. If you haven't seen it yet, there might be some slight spoilers here. Josh, you have been warned.
Oh, well, that's fine. In preparation this morning, I woke up and was like, oh no, I've got to do a stream. And then I kind of zoomed through part of, how far through am I in this? Hang on, I'll check.
What's the state of the Camaro?
Outstar's
it's not
in the
great.
chat.
It's not good.
Okay.
I'm an hour and a half into it, and there is an hour left of the first episode of this thing. And I think that's what we're doing today, right? We're talking about actual plays, whether it's LA by Night or Vampire the Masquerade things that Vain Pursuits, that's what it's called.
Yeah, exactly.
Bloodlines too.
Yep, we're talking about some specific series. We're going to be talking about, the like Josh mentioned, we're also going to talk about our own little pursuits in it, and essentially talk about some ups and downs about role-playing online and role-playing on, live, which is very different from your normal tabletop role-playing shenanigans, which has its ups and downs, for sure. Thank you very much for the emoji, by the way, or the mode. But where should we start? Should we start talking about something else that premiered yesterday? I don't really recall. Like, Vain Pursuit is the thing I tune in to watch, but there was something else before that.
Are you being serious right now?
There's always stuff going on. You're gonna have to be more specific.
Yeah, I think it was set in.
It's set in Los Angeles, or was it San Francisco?
I was San Francisco, right? Yeah. No, LA by Night after about a year, no, half a year. Of
the last one I think was in August.
Yeah, like the last epilogues were in August, so about half a year, I'd say. LA by Night is back. It's now on World of Darkness, their Twitch, and it was wow. Yeah, it came back with a blast. Like, I didn't even realize how much I missed the show until it came live again. If you're not familiar with LA by Night, and honestly, if you're not, then well, don't pause this stream, but run them simultaneously. LA by Night is a game run by Jason Carl, who is, I believe, lead content manager.
He is,
or is it social media manager?
He's very important.
Very important. White
Paradox.
Well, he's Kane, basically. We know this.
Yeah.
It is known. He's the Dark Father.
He's got a long history in the American LARP scene, I believe, as well. Was he in? It was something by Night Studios, or did I get that wrong?
Oh, he was working with one of the LARP ones. Yes.
Yeah.
I think it was by Night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have. Sorry.
Close my curtain.
Oh yeah, the sun.
I see the sun right in your face.
Yeah. Jason Carl is absolutely amazing as a storyteller, and I also have seen an elusive photo of him at the LARP. The night in question. So he's been making his rounds. He storytells two campaigns right now that are online: Seattle by Night and LA by Night.
Mm-hmm.
LA by Night, I would like to say, and I hope you agree with me, that LA by Night kind of kicked off what we now refer to as the vampire renaissance. I would say that certainly the interest in vampires started spiking a lot more after LA by Night kicked into gear. Mm-hmm. And we got a lot to thank them for. It's got Alexander Ward, Erika Ishii, sorry, B-Day Walter,
Cynthia Marie.
Cynthia Marie, thank you. She's my favorite character, and of course Jason Call, and so many amazing guests.
She left comments on the video. In case anyone in the chat is not caught up, I literally made a 30-minute long video of the whole story of LA by Night so far, and Cynthia Marie actually is in my comments, so that was pretty cool.
She slid into your comments. She
did.
That's amazing. Cynthia Marie is great as a Toreador. Alexander Ward is playing Jasper the Nosferatu. Erika Ishii is playing a Bruja, Annabelle. B-Day Walter is playing Victor Temple, the undisputed Baron of the Valley. Ventru, of course. And Cynthia Marie is playing Nellie G. Can I say it? Can I spoil?
Say it. Own it.
The undisputed Baron of Hollywood. She's taking over. It's great. I am so happy for her.
I don't know if she's happy, though, because she really loves, we don't really know why, Isaac Abrams, and he's going off to the Beckoning.
That's true.
So.
Hey, he's joining us here. Oh, Josh.
That's a good thing. Like, if anything bad happened to Isaac Abrams, I think I would be a bit sad because I really loved that character.
It's a great character. One of the first one, I was like caught by surprise by how candid he was in the game. I recall when I played.
He was still a bit of an ass, mostly because he didn't tell you stuff.
Of course.
But yeah.
Yeah, but it's pretty amazing. I think I noticed a hint of salt in the tone of Baron Victor Temple at these news.
I'm pretty sure Prim and I, like the whole LA by Night, because we were both up at 4:30 in the morning or 5 in the morning watching it. So he and we couldn't handle the chat. The chat was so crazy. So he and I were like texting back and forth the whole time, and I think both and I were like, Victor's salty. That's some salt thrown on that.
Yeah, it's been a long ride, LA by Night, and I think they started out with Geek and Sundry, who have a pretty high budget for their studios, so they have like different effects. I know they implemented like sort of transparency when Jasper was using Obfuscate or it's all called Obfuscate. I was gonna say Obtenebration. That's not right. Mood lighting, if you like to call it that. And now they moved to another studio. They're probably working on getting things set up, so it was a little bit different.
What's the production like now that they are, I guess, independent, working on the World of Darkness stuff?
Huddy, yeah.
I was gonna say it reminded me of the first season of LA by Night when it was on Geek and Sundry. Is what it reminded me of. Maybe a little bit better because they did have some mood lighting. The lights did change when like Kyoko sparked her palm of flames, blue flames. But it reminded me a lot of the way the first season looked on Geek and Sundry.
Yeah.
And if anybody doesn't know, I know because I'm such a weirdo. I watch Alexander Ward on Twitch and Josephine McAdam and a lot of other.
You weirdo.
I'm such a weirdo. It's totally fine.
People on Twitch.
But he did talk about what happened with Geek and Sundry, and apparently it was just a business thing. Is they wanted Critical Role numbers out of LA by Night, and it just wasn't something that they could do, and they wanted more from them without giving them more money for their budget. Which Critical Role. Geek and Sundry did, yeah. I mean, Critical Role. I mean, come on, I can't match those numbers.
How do you?
Can't. No, there's never going to be another Critical Role, which is the only thing that makes me sad about this kind of new age of role playing shows.
Yeah.
They're definitely.
Yes, Eliana, I'm part of the Bone family, the Skeleton Army. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, I agree with you, Josh, that Critical Role should be viewed, if you're a storyteller or game master, I view Critical Role because I find it entertaining, obviously, but also I look at it as like, all right, here's stuff I can learn. But putting yourself, like comparing yourself to Critical Role, that's just going to make you feel bad. I think they're professional actors, and they've been doing this they did it 2 years before they even went live on the first session, right?
Well, two things I would say to that is one, Critical Role left Geek and Sundry themselves, and two, there's no way Vampire the Masquerade is going to appeal to the same crowd that Dungeons and Dragons does. Yeah, there can be some crossover, but it's such a niche game, and it deals with themes that not everybody's going to like.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, Dungeons and Dragons is a much bigger game right now, 5th edition. It's gotten to the kind of critical mass when it just keeps growing. Very saturated for actual plays on YouTube, by the way. I'm totally not speaking from personal experience, but it is a different beast. And I think it's like every week on Reddit you find a thread like, which is the best clan? What is like? How do I make a good Nosferatu? Like people coming from 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. And trying to branch out and be like, all right, how is this game different from Dungeons and Dragons? Not throwing any shades on Dungeons and Dragons. It's a great game. They're very, very different, in my opinion. But let's keep talking about streams because that's what we're here for, not about the games. Overall, I really liked it. They had 3 amazing guest players yesterday and 1 regular. They did. We, of course, had Kyoko. I don't recall who played her, though.
Me neither. I know who played Delilah, but I don't recall what the actress's name is, unfortunately.
I can very quickly.
I know. I'm the worst.
Yeah, Kyoko.
But and I don't know how you say it correctly, Mika or Micah.
Micah. Yeah.
Micah Burton played Delilah the Thin Blood. And, of course, Taliesin Jaffe played Carver.
Yeah. And Faye Mata, I think.
Faye Mata, that's
Faye
correct.
Mata.
Yes.
She played the amazing Kyoko. Sorry, Faye, for forgetting your name.
Yes, so bad.
Taliesin came by, which was great. Huge favorite in our household. And he was the ever lovable Carver, the sire of Annabelle. Mm-hmm. But something that's really interesting is that all of these people are, in one way or another, stationed in LA, I believe. Like they're actors, they're voice actors, some of them might be models. Like they're in that sphere of people.
Yeah, they're all in the entertainment industry.
Yeah,
in LA.
Exactly. And that, in a way, provides a very entertaining stream. But like I was saying about Critical Role before as well, is that it's difficult to compare yourself to them because, again, they're professionals in many ways. I would assume they're getting paid to be on LA by Night.
Yes, they are. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're getting paid. So that also puts a lot of pressure on like performance and stuff like that. It is a show with a role playing game, in my opinion. And I know a lot of people who are like, I'm never gonna reach that level as a storyteller or game master, and like it's good to aspire to, but remember that it's professional. It's professional actual plays. I would call them.
I don't know. You shouldn't compare yourself to Jason Carl. He's really unique. He's really a one-of-a-kind storyteller.
Definitely.
Jason Carl himself is kind of one of a kind. He is so nice that
I know.
I was it was very cool to meet him. He's so nice, it's actually disarming, and my brain just went,
yeah,
like, hi, are you being sarcastic right now? Like, just for a moment when he says something, I was like, oh no, he means it. Yes, okay, great.
Did you meet him in person?
Yeah, I went to Paradox Con.
Oh, wow.
And he was there promoting World of Darkness
That's
stuff
amazing.
and talking about that.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Promoting things. It was really nice to meet him. So for people like me who know stuff about Vampire but don't necessarily know the setup of LA by Night, aside from the fact that it may or may not be in LA, what is, I guess, the thing that is kicking off this season? What's the premise?
I'm going to point to Huddy for this one.
Also, I have a review of it coming out on Masquerade Monday. Shameless plugging. Okay. So really, as far as I can tell, and again, from watching Alexandra Ward and Josephine McAdam on Twitch, they talk about LA by Night a lot. This season is constructed a little bit differently, narratively anyway. And it's also all pre-taped. It's not being shown live.
Oh, it's not live. Oh, okay.
Well, to be fair, not all of the seasons were always live. The epilogues were always pre-taped, and the little vignettes that they show at the end were always pre-taped. But it seems to be that we're not going to like start off everything in front of Club Maharani with the 4 members of the coterie, and then something happens, and then you go. It's going to be little, I think, sort of maybe snapshots of what everybody is. It's just my guess of what everybody is doing. And all of this opening, in my opinion, was very easing everybody back into the setting of LA by Night. It's sort of Annabelle and Kyoko going out to meet Finnbloods, but also maybe to party a little bit, and it just sort of moves slowly but well from there. Nothing really huge happens in it, in my opinion.
Okay. So the characters are doing their own kind of vampire political thing, and they're like setting themselves up, or what?
Yeah, it's a weird time right now because at the end of season 3, they strike a détente between the Camarilla and the Anarchs. And so there's not supposed to be any fighting. There's supposed to be a truce. And Jason Carl specifically says right when the episode begins that 7 months or several months have passed since that truce happened. So
yeah, who knows?
It's you know what it's sort of like? An arms race.
Yeah.
During the Cold War. It's sort of like that's what's going on.
Yeah.
Everybody is preparing.
Yeah.
Right.
Like you had Aurora showing up, for example. Personal favorite character of mine.
Jason Carl plays an excellent Lasombra Scourge.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
She's great, and a lot of stuff happened to her and her close relatives in previous season.
Her brother.
So that's going to be interesting to follow up. But I did get a lot of I got a lot of epilogue vibes from this episode. Like it's very character focused. We got introduced to a major Thin Blood player in the city. Just like Huddy said, it's an arms race. And we also got to see Annabelle make some, in my opinion, fairly questionable choices.
That's every season, though.
Yeah, but this one, I was like, what is your justification for this? She's Bruja, so obviously. If it's okay, Josh, I mean...
Oh, no, go ahead.
I know, I feel so bad. We're like manipulating the conversation. I'm so sorry.
No, do it. I'm just... well, because I don't know when I'm actually going to get time for this. Spoilers are fine for me. I guess the audience will just kind of have to deal with that if they're not caught up, and or they can save it till later, right?
Yeah, warning, spoilers. We'll put up a timestamp in the VOD or something for when we're not talking about spoilers. Spoilers is going to be at the end. But yeah, Carver showed up again, and he's basically, he's super interested in Thin Bloods. He's talking about this upcoming Gehenna war, all that kind of stuff, fairly vaguely. Like he's not giving out too much information. But it's already apparent that Carver was the one who saved Annabelle, right? Like he embraced her because she was killed by the...
Yeah, we knew that from season 1. Yeah. That's why.
He told her this. Like it's been... I'm pretty sure she knows this is what happened. Like she doesn't doubt it. And either she's playing a long con with Aurora, which I hope she is, or she just hates him so much because she was like, I'm going to give you Carver to Aurora. And he's basically given her a lot of information, telling her how important she is. Like he's put himself on the line for her again, and she just chucks him under the bus right away. And I feel bad for Carver. He is an asshole. The way he's behaving, I would be annoyed with him. But between him and Aurora, who staked Jasper to the Hollywood sign in the previous season,
and put him in torpor.
Yeah, put him in torpor. I wouldn't deal with her. Like, I would not throw my sire at her. Like, it annoyed me a little bit. But...
All right. Well, as someone who's watched it 3 times and wrote a review and made a video about it already, my issue has always with Annabelle has always been that she really. I am not the biggest fan of the Camarilla and whatever, but she needs somebody like Carver. Carver can say all that he wants, that he abandoned her because he knew she could take care of herself and he wants her to be free, but she really needs someone to rein in her emotional issues because she makes dumb mistakes all the time. And I was really hoping, I love the actress, but Annabelle, the character, is the one character that gets under my skin. She gets under my skin more than Aurora does. Aurora is a delight compared to Annabelle. So the thing is that when all the Valkyries were essentially killed after season 3, which was her doing, essentially, I was really hoping that when season 4 began, we would see a change in her character, that she would want to, I don't know, she needs to be hurt more. Not physically hurt more, but she needs to be emotionally, she needs things taken from her so she can really embrace this world of darkness that she lives in now.
Agreed, yeah.
And it's annoying to me.
So that's one thing I was wondering. Obviously, Geek and Sundry has its own kind of vibe about most of its shows, and now that they're on the official World of Darkness channel instead, do you think they'll be able to take it to maybe a darker place, maybe a slightly different theme for the show, or are they just gonna like give people what they've had already? Is that what this has shown you?
I don't know. The show's pretty dark. I mean, when we find out what Jasper does to feed, if anybody doesn't know, he kidnaps bad people, his words, off the street, turns them into vampires, and keeps them in his haven in cages and feeds on them. The show's already pretty dark. It's not that.
It's more that Annabelle doesn't. She's got this kind of like. I don't want to harp too much on Annabelle, but like she doesn't get it. I guess is what I would say. And like you said, Huddy, her losses have been so minimal.
Yeah.
That she hasn't experienced what it is to be a vampire. Like she's ghouled her boyfriend. And I think her girlfriend is ghouled as well.
No, her girlfriend is a vampire.
No, she's a vampire now. Yeah.
We've never gotten information about that.
And that's kind of been that's kind of been left in the air a little bit. I guess it's difficult to get people together and stuff like that. But overall, I feel like Annabelle kind of has this blasé attitude. Like everything just kind of, she's got this shielded jacket on. Like everything just falls off her, and.
The jacket's a great metaphor for Annabelle.
But I would have thought that when she had the speech she held for all the anarchs at the end of was it season 2?
Yeah.
I thought we would have seen a change in her character to become more of a leader. I don't see that so much. I don't know, like more of a kind of person talking about losses, and either she would grew more callous or she'd be more depressed, I guess I would say. Like, this is taking such a heavy toll on what I love.
So I thought, I've seen season 1, and then I wasn't able to watch the rest of it. But Annabelle's character was very cool as like a fledgling vampire who didn't really know what was going on. Yeah. And so where is her character going now? We're 4 seasons in.
That's the thing, is season 1 Annabelle is my favorite Annabelle, because that character totally makes sense. She's been a vampire for 9 days at that point. Yeah. It totally makes sense. The thing is that as a person who likes to write stories, characters need to eventually evolve. Let's take Victor as an example. In the first season, Victor he's very Ventru in the first season. He's very like, I'm going to compel you. But as the seasons go along, he's reaching out to Thin Bloods. He's reaching out to Nosferatu. He's learning from Annabelle that he should make his valley different. That is a good way to get power, by everyone being able to be there. And he's still top dog. He still has that hierarchy. Nellie G in the very first season, she's very secretive. She's very snarky and, very Toreador.
Yeah, a huge wall put up.
Exactly. Yeah. But as the second season goes, and we start learning more about her, and the coterie comes together and helps her kill her sire, Chaz, suddenly she's Mom Nellie G. She's Mompire, and that was who she always was. But now we get to see it. Jasper goes from being, Mr. Secrets to allowing the coterie to know a lot more about him. And he even says he doesn't hate any of them anymore, which is like huge for Jasper.
It's huge, yeah. I always felt that Jasper was like always one step away from just going, this is too much of a hassle.
Oh yeah. But Annabelle's character hasn't done that yet. There is very little difference from her character in season 1 to her character now. It really irritated me that once again she had to hear the story of the Convention of Thorns, because I went back and checked, and that was her 3rd time hearing it, twice from Aurora and once from Baron Abrams. It's like she's not retaining the information, and don't know, it's not good. Something needs to happen. And I don't want anything bad to happen. I don't want anything bad to happen to any of them. But something bad needs to happen to her to make her change. And I thought the Valkyries were it. They were her friends, her allies. Yeah. But apparently not.
I think also one thing that I think Jason Carl is really good at playing on the weaknesses of the characters. Like Daddy Sheepdew brought up now in the chat that Jasper's secrets were revealed because Victor has loose lips. Victor does have loose lips. He likes to brag. He likes to show off. He likes to.
Yeah. He likes to live out in the open.
Yeah, exactly. And that he has had so many he has had to deal with so much fallout because of that. The whole meeting of the barons was because he got cocky and called for praxis against Prince Vannevar. Like Josh, a lot of this stuff is probably like not familiar to you, but
I understand what like I'm not sure of the context, but I know what the like I guess the implications of that sort of thing is. Yeah. But like chat was saying, like I have to ask, did someone get like called out, like did Jasper's secrets fall out because someone was like, hey, my friend here who I shouldn't tell you who they are is like an anarch to a
that's pretty much
Primogen.
Exactly what happened.
Brilliant. That was so in my own campaign Bloodlost, that is exactly what was happening. There were Thin Bloods as players, and one of them was an anarch, and they all had a wonderful meeting with the Camarilla Primogen. I was like, hey, this anarch is new in town. Welcome them in. Ugh. And that ended, well, poorly for the Primogen, actually, but just like everyone got extremely tense in that moment. It was a lot of fun. So I always enjoy those moments as a GM. Just when people do silly things.
Yeah, Jason Carl definitely enjoys when people mess up. He loves that.
And what Victor did was basically he was backing up his buddy, right? Like I think it was I don't even recall the details, but he just has trouble separating what I should tell people and what I shouldn't tell people.
Yes.
And Vannevar came down from San Francisco where he got kicked out, I assume, by the Kuei-jin or the One Kuei.
They don't say specific. They don't say specifically. They say that he was someone else took over.
Yeah, and honestly, that's good because the less we talk about Kindred of the East, the better, in my opinion, for lots of reasons. But Vannevar essentially went to L.A. I was like, this is my domain now. He called Praxis, and Victor was like, oh, call Praxis too. I'll challenge you. And you can't do that if you're Anarch. That's not how it works. And all the barons essentially came down on him in the episode. It was great.
As soon as he goes to the Herald, he's like, I declare Praxis. Jasper like leans his head down and goes, I hate everything.
Oh, yeah.
And it was such a that moment. It was great.
Yeah.
But did it work is the question. No?
Oh, well, there was a follow-up scene at Vannevar's Elysium, which I thought
at the Getty Center.
Which was amazing. One of the best scenes in that season, in my opinion.
It was the first appearance of Brian Deckhart, and you watch him, and you're like, oh my God, he's a Venture Prince.
That Vannevar, Deckhart, he's such a great actor. I love his performance.
Yeah.
But one thing I wanted to bring up way back when we talked about, like, because it's pre-filmed, right? I think there's might be a practical reason for that, because I think it might be hard to get people together because there's so many different people involved in this project right now. I can really see the advantage of pre-filming it at different times, so everyone's schedules kind of lines up. Because also, I'm gonna this is just my theory here, but obviously since you're out of Geek and Sundry now and it's on their own legs, it's a little like they have to build up something new from the beginning. It's a lot of talk with investors. They have Backblaze, and who else is sponsoring them?
Level Up Dice.
Level Up Dice, yeah. So that's great, but I still think that they're trying to be a bit careful. Like if you have people coming in and record at inconvenient times, that's going to be much more costly. It would be here in Sweden anyway. Like recording something after 6 p.m., you'd have to pay them a lot more money. So all these kind of stuff make perfect sense to have pre-recorded stuff. Plus, they could be in the chat with us while we were watching.
I see absolutely no downside to it being pre-taped. It was interesting when Alexander Ward first talked about it, and Jason Carl had also made a video for the World of Darkness YouTube channel. People were very upset about it, and I honestly can't understand why. One, it's pre-taped, so that guarantees that all the actors who are going to be in it are going to be in it. The production time is shorter because they're all together. According to Alexander Ward, they filmed it in all of it in 10 days or something.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So that keeps the emotions high. It keeps everybody on track so they don't forget things over a week's time, because that happens a lot. And they get to be in the chat with us, which that chat was crazy.
Yeah, I don't know how anyone could read anything in the chat like that.
That's a really interesting way of making it. because when you're doing an actual play live streamed on Twitch, obviously you're playing, and a lot of people are also in the chat, so you're like concentrating on multiple things. You're concentrating on the story, your character sheet, the chat, all of these other things that you're thinking about. And I think that kind of takes advantage of Twitch's benefits, being able to do it live, be there in chat. But I guess as the show actually happens, most of the time, most shows I've seen don't really interact with chat particularly often, and especially LA by Night, right? They don't have chat in front of them. They don't talk to chat. They just get they do the show, right?
Yeah. I know Critical Role initially had some involvement with the chat, but that became completely unmanageable by the end.
I can imagine. Episodes. You can't keep track of that.
Because like first episode, chat orders them pizza apparently, so that was the thing that happened. I haven't seen all of season 1 because I can't. I have a big problem with bad audio. It makes it very difficult to listen to, and like the first 20 episodes has not very good audio. But
I love Critical Role. Critical Role is amazing.
It is good. But I agree with you, Josh, that it is a pity that there's not a lot of interaction with these big productions with the chat.
Well, that's the thing. It's interesting because it doesn't necessarily lose all that much. It still gets the show out. It still is live, so everyone can be in chat at the same time, and then the actors are free to be in chat with chat, which I thought I would think it was an awful idea, but I've kind of come around to it as a way of doing it. It's not the worst idea ever. It's like
no.
You familiar with YouTube's Premiere function?
Yeah.
So you basically put out a video as a live stream, and then you're in chat.
Yeah.
I guess that's what it is.
Yeah. I guess that's true. That's true.
Apparently the concern was people were thinking they were going to edit it and they were going to change. And
yes. So if they'd edited it and put it out as like a slick production with like star wipes or whatever,
but they aren't.
That would be, if they made cuts, like even the basic kind of editing, just making cuts, I think that probably would have defeated the purpose of making it a live stream. Okay. Yeah, if they didn't do that, then that's even better. Cool. Okay, yeah, that's fine.
I think it was honestly, I'm very excited to see the rest of season 4. And I want to see more Vannevar stuff because season 3 was a little too big of a scope for me. I recall feeling that season 3 was too much all over the place. No, that's the wrong way of putting it. There were so many characters, so many high stakes going on that it got a little bit hard to follow.
I would say the stakes were really high in season 3, but season 3 is my favorite so far. I mean, we got to go back to Revolutionary France.
Oh, that's true. That
Alexander Ward playing Francois Villon. You know, come on, that was great.
It was an amazing episode. and Marie
Antoinette.
Yes, Marie Antoinette. Yeah, and we had Lucita. So many great characters.
Lucita de Aragon.
Yes, but I'm excited about this. I want to see more of the ghouls, the little rose garden, but they're not really roses. They're daffodils and
daffodil and lavender.
Yeah, I love them. They're great.
Yeah.
Their attack on the Second Inquisition headquarters was just was one of my favorite episodes.
Yeah, mine too. That was with Eve before she was a La Sombra.
Oh yeah. So a lot of stuff has been going on. Sorry, but season 4 is starting strong. I hope it's going to continue. And Jason Cole, of course, as always, is a great storyteller. And then the show. Should we move on? Because it's been like half an hour. I think we
Sure. Yeah.
Josh is like, I'd like to say things too.
No. I've been thinking things. I've been trying to follow along, and most of it makes sense. I know who Annabelle and Victor are.
Yeah.
Good.
I'm really. This is gonna be me next time when we do Bloodlines 2, because I know so little about Bloodlines 2, so I'm gonna listen to you guys.
Yeah, I don't know. Josh knows way more than me because I am gonna play it blind, so I'm trying not to spoil myself way too much.
Right. Well, the thing is, everyone was like, "Let's do a Bloodlines 2 episode next time," and I'm like, I have immediately forgotten all of the things that I made all those videos about. Okay, well, this is good.
It's
good.
fine. You got another 2 weeks or something to
Yeah,
to
I'm
literally learn
actually going to
again.
be looking at the ARG they've done. I need to brush up on exactly what happened with that. But this episode, let's do this one first.
Yeah. But I think we're going to move on to another thing. I think we should talk about Vain Pursuit a little bit. Yes. We can talk about the stuff around it, and we can talk a little bit about the episode.
Can I say one thing?
Yes, of course. Of course you
The
can.
very first time I saw the title, I got so excited because it's a play on words, and I'm a sucker for that. It's Vain Pursuit, you know?
Yeah.
Vain like blood vein. I told my wife was just like, that's not funny. And I'm like, it's so funny. It's great.
it is funny. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a pun at what's
do it.
the opposite of enthusiasm for puns? Like negative enthusiasm, like every time I hear a pun, it hurts. Hurts. Yeah, unenthusiasm. It hurts my soul.
Enthusiasm for puns.
It's still a good name. I mean, I named my show Blood Lost because bloodlust, and I couldn't think of anything better. So
that totally does it for me. I'm in.
Yeah, every time I try to do puns, it just falls completely flat. So I just go 100% straight.
You mean like the bee puns in our little Chicago stories? Horrible. You got to stop doing that.
Plan B.
Stop.
Queen B.
Don't stop. I will groan, but don't stop.
Yeah, but that's I was gonna say Nate again. That's Harry in a nutshell. He is our little chaos goblin in the Changeling campaign as well. And he just he's the kind of go-getter, action-focused kind of guy when he's playing. I can appreciate that. It makes it very difficult to plan as a storyteller, however. So
you're up for the challenge, I'm sure.
I hope so. Vain Pursuit's interesting as well because the roads they're gonna follow out are laid out like veins. That was a thing too.
I love that.
Yeah. So
it reminded me of the map screen in Coteries of New York. That was a really cool map screen with the kind of blood flowing through the streets. Yeah, that was a nice aesthetic.
Yeah, it's great.
It was kind of gross, but it was nice.
That was awesome.
Yeah. I like that too. Coteries had the aesthetics of Vampire down to 100% for sure. And I'm glad that Paradox worked closely with them. I think they have a very good visual idea of what they want to do with Bloodlines too, and with Vampire in general. Like they have a very strong sense of aesthetic for the game. Like if you want to talk about V5, I think V5 is in its design very well adapted to a vampire game in the 21st century. But Vain Pursuits is about a group of 5 vampires. I don't even know if they're coterie. I don't think they ever refer to them as a coterie. So they literally just meet, I think.
No, it's like any vampire anarch coterie. They're just a bunch of people.
Yeah. Because I know Veronica
all together in the same place.
Veronica sits in the car like, all right, so what do you guys do? What are you good at?
Yeah, they're just like Nines just recruited them.
Yeah, that's right.
As far as I could tell.
Yeah, they got recruited by Nines Rodriguez, given some ghouls and some stuff, and essentially told, hey, go find our courier who's going to Seattle, who's been stopped, or we're suspecting that someone essentially is gonna take what they're delivering, and we want you to help them out. And Karim is a great DM. Someone just mentioned in the chat. Karim is really fun. He does the same thing that I do when I'm storytelling, like slowly spinning the chair while he's talking, which I can relate to right away. Yeah. But I think that it was also pre-recorded, and I know most of the people playing were staff at Paradox or Paradox aligned companies, right?
They were all Paradox employees.
Oh, right. And then you had
or
Outstar.
Hard Suit Labs. Yeah, in Florian's case.
That's the one I was thinking. Yeah, and Huddy, Outstar came in as an outside player and completely kicked ass, Venture style. So
well, they don't know we know she's a Venture, but they don't know.
That's
right?
True. She never revealed that. I don't think.
She's dropped some pretty big hints.
She's walking around using daunt.
Yeah, just walking around in a big leather jacket, like, oh, I'm an anarch, but also incredibly good posture and telling people what to do.
Very muscly, very muscly.
And compelling people and everything. It was great.
Yeah, I liked her character right away. I shouldn't say anything because I was 6 players for Changeling, but when you have 5 players together, it takes a while for the dynamic to get established. And one of the things I'm going to talk about later when it comes to online tabletop role-playing in a stream is that time is such a commodity when it comes to these shows that I saw some comments on the YouTube upload that people were like, oh, it's a little stiff. Like, yeah, it's the first episode. It's the first time they're ever doing anything. I thought it was fine. I thought it was good.
I have so much to say about that. That irritates me.
Yeah. And that goes back to like, oh, I wanted Jason Carl. It's almost like this Jason Carl.
You can't have Jason Carl for everything. That would be great, but
he's one man, damn it.
Karim is great. He was doing a great job. And,
he was great.
Yeah. And the players, they're playing off each other. You have immediately personalities clashing with each other, which I thought was really great. There was some really like the I keep forgetting the name of the car, the Camaro when it got blown up. And the Bruja was like, that was a background dot, man.
Oh, yeah. It's like, and, I paid for that.
Yeah, I really liked Myers' character.
Yeah, Myers.
I really enjoyed it. I like that he's constantly smoking. That was hilarious.
Yeah.
And just chain smoking as a vampire.
Yeah. And I think Karim's acting when he did the ghoul was really excellent. And the whole setup felt really well planned out. And... overall, I was very impressed. I'm looking forward to seeing more episodes. It's pre-recorded as well, which gives the advantage of adding some special effects. I'm assuming in post, like with the little avatars moving around on the battle map, because I don't think they were painting those.
Quite possibly. I don't know what they used for that. But so I'm wondering, and Huddy, you were saying you wanted to say something, so I'll make this super quick. But I am wondering if in the first episode there are many hints as to what the implications on the kind of Bloodlines 1 and 2 stories are, because the idea behind this was it would connect them. So at the end of that episode, is there something that hints to that, or is that coming?
No, Prim might have a different opinion, but in my opinion, there's really nothing yet besides the fact that Nines Rodriguez sent them on this little mission that really connects anything to do with Bloodlines 1 and 2. Nothing yet. But there are several production notes that show up on the side of the screen there that do say, like, this doesn't make sense now, but it will in future episodes. It says that a couple of times during the stream or during the video. So I'm pretty sure we're going to get more information about that. But this was just, the first part. And so I don't think anything yet, in my opinion.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think as well that one can only theorize what is being delivered. For a second, I was like, maybe this also connects to Seattle by Night. Like maybe it has something to do with the thing they retrieved. I've only seen 2 or 3 episodes of Seattle by Night. I need to catch up on that. But I couldn't really connect the dots there.
Now, Seattle by Night's a way different vibe.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I mean, like maybe what the courier was delivering might have something to do with what's going on in Seattle by Night. Who knows? But yeah, I didn't see the obvious connection except for Nines Rodriguez, obviously, to the someone was using their car very loudly outside. But yeah, I think that's gonna reveal itself. I'm assuming they have a set amount of episodes. Like, is it 10 episodes they have planned for it, or is it less? 8 episodes?
I actually don't know.
I read somewhere that
I don't know if they've told anyone, but if they've pre-recorded all of it, and I guess Outstar is not there anymore, so they must have finished it. So there must be a certain amount of episodes.
I don't know how much I'm allowed to say here. Outstar, tell me in the chat.
Prim. Loose lips, Prim.
Yeah, she recorded everything already. I don't know. Actually, I don't know as much as it might be.
I don't know.
Who knows? But I do hope that they have time to, like, I would hope that they would do recording in more sessions, because that would give them time to look back at what they did and maybe feedback from the community and improve certain aspects of it if they feel like they needed to. Because that's one of the advantages of not recording everything right away. Then you, like Josh, you were saying, you can get input from chat and from comments, be like, all right, we got to fix that, we got to change that, give you more prep time to set up new stuff in the background. Like the sets were a little bit lackluster in season 4 of LA by Night because they were new. So that's why I would be like, maybe they should have, spanned it out over more weeks of recording so that they could have, if they were going to improve it. Could be that next episode is going to be an amazing set. Who knows? But I felt like they had good equipment, good audio. Audio is always super important, and like you could tell that they've talked with each other a bit before about their characters. But I can see why some people thought it was a little bit stiff, and especially in the beginning.
I have so much to say about
Huddy,
this.
tell me.
Yeah. Let's get back to your thing, because I think we may align on some stuff.
Okay, well, again, as someone who likes to write stories, stories need to start off in medias res, so in the middle of things. That's what that means. And I'm really new to TTRPGs, as you guys know. Your guys are playing the first one ever with me. So, but I've watched a lot. Since finding LA by Night, I've watched Long Beach by Night, Seattle by Night, watched the Cult of the Blood Gods, so many.
How do you have the time?
The time, I don't sleep very often. Anyway, and the most important thing to me is that a first session is never going to be great. Even watching the first episode of LA by Night, I'm like, oof, I don't know about this. This is kind of slow. This is kind of weird. But that's how things need to start. You need to ease into it. The players need to ease into it. And I'm sorry, it's really good. You got to give it a second. It's like when you're starting a book, and it's not, you don't really know what's going on, and but you got to give it a second. Give it a second. Give it a chance. And then it gets really good. By the end of Vain Pursuit, I was upset that it was over. I was like, no, I want more. And that, a lot of people don't, I think it's because of the times that we live in, maybe, is that a lot of people don't want to wait, or they want really high production value, or they want something they can invest in immediately and get that instant gratification, maybe. But
I see your point, absolutely. But this goes back to the whole thing, like, are they a coterie, or are they just hired by Nines Rodriguez and thrown together into a pile? Because if they're all like supposed to be a coterie that sort of know each other, there's always, they probably had a session 0, I would assume, before they started recording. But that's one of the most crucial elements, in my opinion, to starting a game well, that you sit down, you design your characters together, you talk what kind of themes do we want, like even the chronicle tenets for Vampire is supposed to be developed together cooperatively. So you can certainly lessen the effect of this stiffness. And again, I'm not saying it was it was bad at all. And I was so hyped after LA by Night and I was doing laundry at the same time, as you know. So
you kept telling me you're doing laundry.
I would say it's definitely one of the better actual plays that I watched. I haven't watched that many. I don't have the time, unfortunately. But I think we could have done with some more character development before the action happened, I guess is what I'm saying.
I want to ask Josh, because he said he might have been on the same wavelength as me, but I just want to make a point. If you've ever watched Long Beach by Night, the first episode is really hard to get through because B. Dave Walters immediately starts the episode off banging on the table really loud and going, police, police. It's immediate into, that's like really in medias res. That's like immediately into action. And you have no idea what's going on. You're totally confused. And it's not like till like 45 minutes into it where you're like, oh, that's what's happening. And that's a little extreme in my opinion. But this Vain Pursuit was great in my opinion. And I've watched a lot of actual plays. This was great. It's a perfect easing into it. And Kareem, by like the hour mark, he's like so into being Storyteller. And it was so cute. I loved it.
For sure.
It's adorable.
It was a great job. Sorry, Josh, you were sorry.
Oh no, I was agreeing. Like whether or not people have had the opportunity to play games at home, if you are watching an actual play, it's a weird kind of double standard sometimes. People don't necessarily want a recreation of what they can play at home, but they also want to see people play the game. So like Huddy said, it's really difficult sometimes to build up the momentum at the beginning of a game when people may not have spent that much time together. Like in Vain Pursuits, I don't know how much they played beforehand, how much they talked beforehand, but no matter what, that's how groups work. That's how the game is played. And I think they did really well to like characterize and introduce us to how people act between each other. They introduced the premise of the show really well, and like they got me excited for more, because there was that like immediate conflict where they were just kind of going in. I like the bit with the nervous ghoul who had to give them like GPS coordinates.
I think his name was Sam or Steve or something.
Something like that. And they all had like various reactions to this guy completely barefaced lying to him. And then like one of them just left and was like,
Meyer just left. He's like, whatever.
we've got to go. Let's do this. And so like the inter-party dynamic was pretty well established, I feel. And I think that's like as best as you can hope for in an episode 1.
Can I say something?
Yes, of course.
You know what I loved? You know what made me laugh so hard was Kareem went a really long time describing the I don't know how to say it. I don't know anything about cars. The name of the car begins with the C. Camaro. He went really long into explaining it, into the camper, to where everyone's sitting, and blah blah blah, and whatever. And then he just has everything explode.
Yeah, dead face.
It didn't matter at all.
Deadpan, and it blows up. It's like, what?
That made me laugh so, because he took such time and detail explaining everything, and then he just made it blow up. And then, of course, that means Meyer doesn't have a home because he was carting around his home, his trailer.
He even made a point of saying where in the caravan he's sleeping. Like, he sleeps in a fake gas tank. Like, it was all worked out so well. I felt so bad for him.
It was so, I don't know, I just couldn't stop laughing. The idea of it was so funny. Yeah. And then, of course, I felt so bad. I mean, he was brutal. Once the action began, everyone kept getting shot.
Yeah.
It was so brutal.
It was great. I loved Mayer's last line though at the end of the episode as well. Like, so anyone knows the land? It's like something like that. Anyone knows the area?
And he was like, anyone familiar with the area? Something like that.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, it definitely left on a good cliffhanger. I'm super looking forward to more of it. And like again, I wasn't trying to say that they weren't good, but I liked it a lot.
I liked it a lot too. I like how Camellia was forced by a compulsion. I think because did she throw like 3 messy criticals or something
there
in a row?
There was a lot of messy crits in the game, and she was convinced she had to be the one to kill the guy with the rifle, right?
The guy on the ridge, yeah. And she finally gets there and he takes off at his motorcycle. Oh man, couldn't stop laughing.
Yeah, I loved it.
That was so funny.
So great episode. Looking forward to more of it. Mm-hmm. What else is there really? Like, I really want to see what connections it has to Bloodlines 1. Obviously, I know so little about Bloodlines 2 that,
We have a question in the chat.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Question to Huddy, Jersh, and Primogen: how would you make Vain Pursuit better?
Music, maybe.
I thought the production value was fine.
Yeah.
I like the visuals. Really cool.
I think I focus less on the visuals personally because I usually listen to them as podcasts. I don't look at what the people are doing. Yeah. Although that is pretty good sometimes with stupid faces and things people pull. But I don't know. I would just give them a bit more time together. Just another episode would make it better, I think.
Yeah, I think it's a little too early to see what you would make better.
I don't think it needs to be improved all that much. I really personally I just want to get to the meat of the problem that they'll be facing over the series. That would be perfect for me. But it established it pretty well.
One thing someone was pointing out that I actually enjoyed, a comment on the YouTube video, was that someone was following along with the Google Maps at the same time, like following their route.
Oh,
And
That would be good.
That would have been interesting. Like,
Yeah.
in hindsight, 2020, I would have never thought of doing that for myself if I planned it. But that would have been really cool. For us Europeans, it's very hard to picture how fucking big California is.
yeah, I did have one issue, is that he was talking about the map and he was talking about going to Nevada, and I'm like, you don't have to go to Nevada to get to Seattle.
That would be like, you can just
Like, that'd be a really weird route. That'd take you a really long time.
Isn't that because the courier is taking a different path? Like,
Yeah, that was just one of the possible things, but
yeah.
like, even so, that's like the last possible thing he might be doing.
Can I tell a funny story about that? Just a little aside.
You have a funny story about Nevada? Sure.
Yeah, I went. Me and Kitsu went to visit a friend in San Francisco because we were gonna go to FanFest in Las Vegas. So I've never been to that side of the U.S. before. So I asked my friend, "Hey, can we like drop by Los Angeles on the way?" And they're like, "No." Okay, it's as far as like painted up a map. It's like, okay, here's San Francisco, here's Nevada. It's an 8 to 9 hour car ride. Here's LA. It's like, dude, it's like a triangle. It would double the time to drive. I was like, okay, I can see why. I can see why we're not gonna go by LA. Like 8 hours in Europe, you're freaking down at by car. You would be down in middle of Italy at that point.
Yeah, you could go
Yeah.
South France,
Sweden,
Spain. I could get to basically any country in Europe if I tried hard enough.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you stories about traveling in the States since I lived there for 25 years. But let's see, from the last place I lived in South Carolina, if I wanted to go back to where I was born in Boston, it would take me 16 hours to drive there. And it's literally it's one highway 95, 16 hours straight up.
I complain when I have to go back to see my parents, which are 4-hour train ride away.
I know,
from
everybody
the middle of
complains
England
about that here.
to the
Because
east of England.
Europe is more homey, you know.
It's a lot more condensed.
Yeah.
So there's a saying I've heard here since living here, but Americans think 100 years is a long time, and Europeans think 100 miles is a long way.
Yeah, yeah,
a good
that's it.
saying. Yeah, that's a good saying.
That's what I've heard
I-
anyway.
that makes it so much easier to understand when people go like, "Yeah, I moved to the other side of the U.S. to start a new life." Yeah, for sure you would. It would be like me moving down to Egypt.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know anyone here.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But what's cool is that where they have their battle in Vain Pursuit, their gun battle,
Yeah.
is Red Rock Canyon, and I've actually been there.
Cool.
I've traveled to Las Vegas before, and I rode horseback when the sun came up through Red Rock Canyon. So that was really cool for me. I was like, I've
That's
been
cool.
there.
That's cool.
There was no guns though.
Yeah. I like the little sketches they did too, by the way. I always like it when they visualize the combat scene. I would do it more when I Storytell Dungeons and Dragons, but I absolutely refuse to buy the miniatures. On principle, I will not pay $20 for 3 little miniatures.
Well, the thing is with the D&D miniatures, they're really, really crap.
Yeah, I have
Like
some from 4th edition.
I paint miniatures.
Yeah.
I just before this, I was listening to Vain Pursuits, and I was painting a Warhammer a ghost horse thing, and like they're decent miniatures. But I was like, you know what? I'll get myself a character. I'll get myself a Dragonborn because I'm playing that with my mates. Sure, they're really awful.
Yeah,
they're
like soft
crap.
plastic, no details.
They're really bad. Anyway, no. Yeah, anyway, it's a complete aside.
Yeah, no, but I agree
But
with you.
the visualizations,
yeah, they're good.
Getting back to
They're
what we
good.
were talking about.
That's the next game you guys are gonna have to teach me, is how to play Dungeons and Dragons.
I don't know how to play Dungeons and Dragons, and I'm in 2 Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
Certain
5th edition,
things.
you just need a D20, some dice, just through stuff.
I have no idea. I was playing D&D on Table Story last night, and I had all these things in front of me. I was like, that one, and I did a magic, and then the DM knew what I meant, so that was fine. I did a detect magic, and then I realized what the implications of that were.
So I think 5th edition, if we're just gonna do that little aside about Dungeons and Dragons, 5th edition is my ultimate form of Dungeons and Dragons because it's boiled down to it's very hard to fuck up your character. in that game, which in earlier editions was quite possible. And Pathfinder, I tried that once, and I was like, all right, the spellbook, I'm scared. I don't know what to do.
The thing is about D&D 5th edition for me is that the more I play it, the more things I want to change. I don't like D&D 5th edition that much.
Skill system could certainly use some more complexity to it. That's my big beef with it.
I think all sorts of things could do with.
Well, I think this is a good segue into talking about your guys' experiences with TTRPGs.
Ooh,
yes, that's keeping us on track. Good, thank you.
Josh, what is?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to sit out this conversation, so I'll just listen.
Well, you've been with us. Let's talk about Chicago Stories, because Primogen, we've done 2 episodes of that, we've all been in that, and so we can all talk about it. Because I really enjoyed the first episode. Like, Primogen was making a story, just setting us up for something, and I wasn't sure what it was. And then we had to fight off a vampire, and then fire happened.
Yeah, how did that happen?
And then suddenly, like, the entire of Chicago burst wide open to us, and we were like all doing this little sleuthing. It was great.
I'm happy to hear that. Thank you.
It was great for you because you shot the fire and then got the hell out. That's why it was great.
You want to know a secret, by the way?
A secret?
Yeah, that shotgun did not have that kind of ammunition until someone
I felt when you heard Harry say it, I thought I saw a little glint in your eye.
I'll make a note. I was like, yeah, for sure. And it makes perfect sense too, because they were ready for any kind of opposition, so they'd have that lying around in case some vampires showed up, you know. Because being in the basement of a rundown, abandoned brothel full of...
You're such a jerk, Prim.
Why?
Why? It was so much fun, though. That was a jerk move. Yeah. That was a let's see what the players do to themselves moment. I was down with that.
So Chicago Stories, which it's what it should be called, I'm realizing, because that's the name I default to every time, but it's Stories from Chicago.
Is it?
Yeah, which doesn't roll off the tongue at all.
Oh, I kept on calling it Chicago by Night. Yeah. I knew that was wrong, and then
I was calling it Chicago Stories.
Yeah, Chicago Stories is such a better name. It's taking place in Chicago by night. The setting, obviously, with the fifth edition, Vampire 5th edition book, which should have arrived now to everyone who got it from Kickstarter.
Which I just released a review on my YouTube channel.
Go check it out.
I was in the chat.
It's an amazing book, by the way, and I think they really did previous editions of Chicago by Night justice, because they're like the what would you say, the gold standard for by night books, in my opinion. The Chicago by Night, especially 2nd edition book, because it's just so much stuff in it. But Chicago by Night, the 5th edition, it's essentially, the city is now ruled by Kevin Jackson, one of the childer of Loden, who used to be the prince. He died in between 1st and 2nd edition. Josh probably has some thoughts on that later on, but he's not around anymore. At least he's not a major open power player. So there's a big vacuum of power essentially in the city, because a lot of the vampires who were around in 2nd edition are gone, and they were in charge of stuff. Like, you had Tyler, the person who started the Anarch Revolt, who diablerized Hardestat the Elder. She was in charge of O'Hare Airport in Chicago. Like, that was her thing. So Chicago had a lot of power players in it. A lot of them have moved on, the Beckoning being a thing. But it's a great setting to play in. And one of the things that you can get with it is the Chicago Folios, which is essentially a collection of story seeds, I think written by, well, I know I got it from Matthew Dawkins. That was a weird name to say his name, weird way to say his name, Matthew Dawkins. But I do believe other people have contributed to it as well. I'm not entirely sure. If someone knows in the chat, correct me.
I've not heard about this folio.
It was something you could get as well on the Kickstarter, I believe, at a certain tier. No, it was unlocked. So I do know that some of them were published on the Onyx Path's website. Like, you can actually find the story seed that we're using, which is the Black Roses, I believe. But I picked that. I reworked it a lot, implemented some stuff that my vision is I want to play a short story We settled on 3 sessions. We might be going for 4 sessions because of the latest episode, but partly because Josh told me that you can play a longer campaign. So I was like, all right, let's go with the short one. And God, I can't talk today. I have a huge problem with keeping a story alive for a long time. I think the longest running game I've ever run is a year and a half before I kind of just lose steam. So this was like the perfect way to be like, all right, let's create a small, concise story with a very specific theme. And the theme is Methuselah Hunters, which I don't think we've been very clear about when we've been playing. But that is essentially what everyone had in mind when they created the characters. Kitsu is playing on it as well, as is Harry, who we mentioned earlier, from Saratoga by Night and Salubricat on YouTube, I believe. Mm-hmm. And the game starts with Josh's character, who is a Ventru. He is a bit of a black sheep of the family. He gets information that Annabelle, the Primogen of Toreador, has a little proposition for him that could be interesting to your character and to the rest of the group. Sebastian is your character, by the way. And then we essentially just played everyone's feeding in the beginning of the game. And that was interesting. That was good. I felt like that really helped everyone get into the mindset of the game starting. You guys got together. It was very much led by the nose for the first episode, so I wanted to not do that in the second one. I hope that was...
I totally agree. You set it up, and then we knocked it down in the second episode.
Yeah, yeah. You guys did an amazing job in both the first and the second episode. You immediately, like, you have such clashing personalities, your characters, which always creates for interesting little, jabs at each other. You have Harry's character, God, I forgot what his character's name is now. That's embarrassing. Stanley, thank you. Stanley the man, who has a living hornet's hive inside of him, or a wasp hive. And he's very he's very focused on let's get this thing done. He's kind of ruthless.
He's so quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he does something horrifying out of nowhere, sting people.
Yeah, he is harsh. Very different from another character he's playing, Nate. You have Huddy's character Marie, who is a La Sombra, starting fresh in Chicago.
La Sombra badass.
Yeah. She's hard as stone, very sassy, to everything.
I know. As soon as we're at the session, you guys are like, that's just the way I am. Really, though, I'm really just a jerk.
I felt so bad because we talked about this beforehand, and I was like, my character will have beef with your character just because of who she is. And then immediately both Kitsu and I were like, ha, Marie sucks. We were just jabbing at you.
You called me trash within 5 minutes.
I forgot about that.
I did.
My God, yeah. I did call you trash.
My God, speaking of Kitsu, she, you know what? She makes it so hard for me to stay in character because she's always making me laugh.
Yeah, I'll let Kitsu know that. You're always making them laugh.
She's so, because there was one part, I don't remember what was going on, but she was just like, she's like, we can fuck you. Well, not literally, ew, gross. Oh my God, I had to mute my microphone because I couldn't stop laughing.
Yeah, very. Kitsu is playing Julia.
Toreador
Julia, who has a very kind of sort of bubbly, almost like influencer type personality.
Is Kitsu there?
Yeah, Kitsu's over here. Yeah. I have to watch my words. I don't want to reveal too much.
She's irreverent in the most delightful way, and makes me laugh too much. Very
different from the original character concept. I'm just gonna say that.
Oh, really?
We hashed it out, but I much more like this Julia than the other one. And then we have Sebastian, who is he just wants to get this job done, man. He
is so done with so many things.
I know, you were gonna shoot Tally with a shotgun.
Could have worked.
Oh my God.
I mean, I don't have the dice to back that up, but I would have tried.
Yeah. Sebastian is a British DJ who is into the good old classical music form of dubstep.
So a little bit of behind the scenes for my DJ Von True. I chose dubstep as his music of choice because he's past it, and he's annoyed at that. But also, dubstep is making a comeback.
Oh, it is. I'm happy for dubstep. I know so little about it, and I think I said that during the stream. Like, I'm more of an 80s, 70s rock guy, so that's my jam. But I kept making jabs at you about dubstep being.
No. It was perfect. It was an aspect of the character I didn't know if people would get, and you just were like, dubstep is old news.
Yeah,
you suck.
Yeah, they have dubstep Monday. Cool. Like nobody goes.
Retro Monday night. Half price drinks.
I seem to. This guy was called Skrillex, right? I seem to remember him. But
did he grill stuff? Like, what was his deal?
Yeah, I think there was like a dead rodent involved somewhere as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to, Josh, you and I need to gush about how good Prim is at storytelling. His his tally was great.
I love hate your tally.
Yes. I love hate.
Tally's been a favorite character of mine for a long time, and only like the day before we were playing did I realize that he's supposed to have a British accent. So that was like, oh god. I did my best. I apologize.
You did.
To Josh.
No, it was the perfect fake British accent.
I'm glad.
Beautiful.
I'm glad. Tally is a very firmly established character in the meta plot. He is one of the most well-known La Sombra. He is the kind of guy who puts clan before personal interest, as far as I've read about him, and he is essentially doing the work of the Amici Noctis right now, the Friends of the Night, and they decided that, hey, La Sombra, let's leave the Sabbat. This is not going the way we want it. So he was given the task of bringing the La Sombra into the Camarilla. So he's kind of like the mastermind behind that. And
he's got a really interesting new role in the meta plot, and I really, really like him as a kind of meta character, and a character that has turned up not only in my campaign but now in the Stories from Chicago. It's brilliant.
And that's really, I'm really glad to hear that he's getting traction and that he's working in your group as well, because I read Becca's Jihad Diary a while back. That's where I got in love with him. I liked him before, but he's in there a lot of times, and he worked for Marcus Aurelius, correct? Is that his name?
No, Marcus Vittel.
Marcus Vittel, sorry.
But I think that's like his actual name or something like that. But...
Which apparently I remember. I didn't remember his. Oh, that's that. Yeah.
It'll be on the White Wolf wiki, which is where I get
Yeah.
most of my details on people.
Marcus Vittel is a very, very old La Sombra who pretended to be Ventru for a very long time, and he's now like the king of Washington, D.C., I think. Like, he kicked out the Sabbat and the Camarilla and just went, this is my domain now. Like he did a Mithras thing, kind of. And he was the patron for Beckett in Beckett's Jihad Diaries. Like, he was financing all of his trips, I think, in the book.
I didn't realize that. I need to go back and read that book, because that is basically the Bible for the new V5 lore, right?
I keep chucking that name out. Whenever anyone talks about the lore, I'm like, just read Beckett's Jihad Diary. You will. It's got everything in it. And
it's kind of written from an unreliable narrator standpoint, which is kind of nice. Yeah. So it leaves lots of options for storyteller interpretation if you want to like take different options in your own campaign. But it's pretty cool.
And the best part is that every single chapter is about a specific part of the meta plot. And just like you said, Josh, they literally tell you, this is how you could work this in. These are story seeds with every chapter. And at the end of the book, they talk about tone from the different editions of Vampire, which I think everyone should read, especially people who criticize V5. Because V5 is going back to V1, Anarchs versus Elders, in a lot of way. And I think that's a conscious decision. People should read that part of the book anyway. I think it's useful. Sorry. It's a very sensitive subject to me. But
I understand what you mean, because so many of my YouTube comments are like, well, I don't like this thing about V5, so I'm going back to V20. I'm like, it's just a game.
Yeah.
I feel like every Beckoning we have to talk about this at least one time.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Oh God, I'm so sorry.
No, it's I hear it too. So, and I don't really get it, to be honest.
Whatever. Oh well.
Well, that's how it is. But I'm glad you like the game. I love running it, and I feel like this is how I want to go forward in the future as well with my games. Like, I want to run shorter games with a clear... Like, I already have the ending scene in mind. I don't know what's going to happen in it, because obviously that's going to be affected by you guys. But there's a specific scene at the end of this short chronicle, this mini chronicle, that's going to happen. And I'm not going to shoehorn it in, obviously, but it's going to be pretty hard to miss it. And just having that idea, like, because this is what I was talking about when I was saying that there's a huge difference between online tabletop role-playing and role-playing in real life. Because in my experience, unless you're people like Matthew Mercer and his crew, or like Jason Carl and stuff, who can pull off long-term stories with a lot of short-term stories and like character development,
moving
interactions.
parts.
Yeah, if you have both the skill and the traction to do that, you can create really great stuff online. But I think, unfortunately, and this is very much my personal opinion, I think, unfortunately, the actual play market or actual play scene is so filled with games being played. And a lot of games are being played very well in the conventional tabletop role-playing game way, in that the storyteller does some preparation, but then the game flows very organically, which I think is the best way to role-play. But it's very hard to keep people's interests if you want to have watchers, because you're playing for your group, which is exactly how they're doing it in Critical Role. They're playing for themselves. Matt even said that you're watching our game. This is our game. But they also have the traction for it, that people are very invested in the characters. If I'm tuning into a new show, it's hard for me to get invested in it. And that's really not in any way trying to say that don't do this. I think if you're having fun and uploading your videos, which I am doing with Changeling, like, and letting it develop organically, that is good. But that is going to make it very hard for people to discover you, and they will need to invest time into your show. But if you make very like planned, like LA by Night, which has this kind of very like cogs moving, and with stuff happening, of course, but there's a very clear plot going on, it's easier for people to get involved in it, I think, and it's easier for the storyteller to just create this kind of concise narrative, unfortunately limiting the freedom of the players, which is the huge downside of that. Sorry, I rant, but I'm done.
No, I agree. It's one of those weird catch-22s, which is on the internet, authenticity is extremely important, which I feel like LA by Night, being so carefully planned, loses a little bit of that kind of edge.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of LA by Night, and I totally agree.
Right, exactly. It's still great, but it doesn't have that. I always, and I may be biased because I'm in it, point towards the amazing work of Mathis Games, who has pulled off an incredibly intricate political game in the Sounds of Silence, which is tough because they've got some amazing characters, they've got an amazing plot, and it is that interaction between short stories and the long-term overarching plot that I just sometimes wish I could pull off. And at the same time, because it's a much more intimate show, it has that authenticity. And so I feel like if you find a show that you don't like on the internet, watching an actual play or listening to a podcast, then 100% there will be a group out there that plays the way that you enjoy listening to, because it's a very different experience playing the game and then watching people play the game. So there's friends at the table, there's adventure
Adventure Time. No, not Adventure Time.
I was going to say Adventure Time as well.
The Adventure Zone. Yeah.
Adventure Zone. That's it. There's Harmon Quest, even.
Yeah.
Like it, on the larger scale of things, but then there's also these wonderful, very small groups of friends who just kind of post videos of them on, I don't know, Skype or whatever, just having a good time.
Yeah.
And it's a really nice variety of different stuff. But yeah, there's if you want to, I guess, get popular, that's probably not how you should aim to do it. No. It's not what you play for. It's to have a good time, and then eventually people will probably find a good time in it as well if you're enjoying it. Because there's always like, everyone knows what the group vibe is. It's always very easy to tell between the players when you're having a good time. I think we showed it off really well in Stories from Chicago. Like that second episode, I really enjoyed gelling with everyone.
Yeah.
Because everyone was just being their character, like either being a dick to someone or having a competition with a very old vampire.
Yeah. I didn't want to spoil that one, so I'm leaving it strictly out. But yeah, there's a huge Chad moment. No, what do you want to call it? No, just badassery going on in the second episode. Yeah. But Huddy, you also watch a lot of actual plays. Like, what is your?
I do.
Yeah. What is your take? Like, what do you prefer? Is there any stuff you've learned about like?
Well, the reason I found LA by Night is because I started making the lore videos, and of course, a lot of information I'm getting has to do with dice rolls and things like that, and I didn't know anything about it, so I wanted to see how the game was actually played, and I just happened to stumble across LA by Night. I don't really remember how. Google, YouTube, whatever, and I think it's a great way for people who've never played the TTRPG to learn how to play it, because especially with someone like Jason Carl who really goes deep into the rules of things. So that's how I knew what rouse checks were and hunger dice and things like that.
Yeah.
Willpower rolls, humanity rolls. But as terms of watching or listening to something, again, I'm a very story-oriented person. I don't play games that don't have an in-depth story that I can't, live through the characters in some way. So I like the moments in actual plays where the characters are being their characters and you get something from them, some backstory, some conflict, some snarkiness, whatever it happens to be. And that's how you know if people are committed to the role. It's how you know if they, like Josh said, if they gel as characters, as a group. That's really when it says to me, okay, this is a good group. This is a group I can get behind, whatever it is that they're doing.
Yeah.
That's what's really important for me, but I don't think I'm in the majority there. I think a lot of people like action stuff.
I was actually going to bring that up. Like, one of the things I really, really don't like about Critical Role is all the combat, which is, combat is a huge element of Dungeons and Dragons, and don't take that out. A lot of people are into theories about, like, now their sheets are public, I think, but they didn't used to be a while back. Like, people are talking about their builds, people are like their strategy when they're fighting, they're using miniatures. It's a huge element of the game, which is very popular. So, like you said, Huddy, tastes differ. Action is difficult.
I'm not so sure that the majority are into the action. A couple of times I've heard people say, when I'm watching a VOD, I skip past the fights.
Yeah,
because then you find out who wins.
Yeah, and I agree,
we've all seen them. The clip compilations of the Critical Role crew doing something silly. All those animations, all those clip compilations are of them as their characters or as the players being silly with each other, and those endearing moments, those funny moments. That's the sort of stuff that really counts, right?
Yeah, but you would be surprised how many people are in for the gameplay.
Right, yeah.
Especially when it comes to Critical Role. Because like Dungeons & Dragons has a long history of, well, less so now in 5th edition when it's been more streamlined, but like the math nerdery, Pathfinder building a proper character. I know some people who are hardcore into Pathfinder adventures and like almost only playing combat, and like it's not my cup of tea, but I know they enjoy it a lot, and it becomes more of like the original spirit of Dungeons and Dragons, which is more of a dungeon crawl kind of game. But I think, like, I don't skip the fights because sometimes something cool happens during the combat. But it's interesting too, because like I agree with you, Huddy, if you take away all the character interaction and focus only on the plot, like if it was just a plot and all their little jabs at each other and stuff like that, a lot of stories wouldn't be very interesting to watch on actual plays. Like, yeah, okay, so it's a story being told with the cast doing it. Like it would be like watching a movie, but it's not, it's not a movie, right? So the character interaction, the banter, the sudden interest in a shopkeeper that can be for an hour and a half. That's what I like about actual plays, like the kind of randomness of it.
Mm-hmm. We made Outstar's travel a little less boring.
Yeah, that's great.
A little less boring is the entire premise of my content.
Same.
Oh my god, that's sad but true for me as well. We just want to entertain.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of entertaining, I think the most daunting thing for me was, when I agreed to, because I really wanted to play vampire, and I agreed to it. Most daunting thing for me was the role playing. That, because I don't role play, I don't act, but it's really easy to get into character, at least if it's a character that you, at least I feel anyway, is well fleshed out. So that's been a cool experience to see that I actually can do it. I think it's people who've never tried it should.
Yeah, if you would have told me that you've never tabletop roleplay before, I would not have believed you. Like, if I didn't know that for a fact. Watching, like, everyone should watch Huddy. Should watch everyone playing on.
Don't stop.
Because and like you said, you made her similar to yourself. There's really
yes.
There's really no shame in that, because that's not the difficult part of role. Like, the difficult part of role playing, the thing a lot of people have a hard time with, is that breaking through the barrier of being like, oh, I'm in front of a camera, or I'm talking to people. Like, it's difficult to.
It's the being in the moment kind of that gets difficult. Yeah.
Well, I found out much later that using real elements of your own backstory is a big no-no. You're not supposed to do that.
It can be difficult if you bleed.
Yeah. So what you've got to be aware of is the bleed. Like, you don't want to take on aspects of your roleplay character, but like every time you play a character, there's going to be part of you in there, because it's no one else playing it. It's just how it happens.
I was just really nervous
because maybe
what
real life facts maybe a little less, but important to include. But yeah.
I was really nervous because I was afraid, I wouldn't, because it's my first time, that I wouldn't be able to, really be able to connect to the character. So that's why I wanted to put so much in there, which, Prim knows my real backstory. I think I blurred the lines enough.
Yeah,
that it's okay.
I would say so. I would say so. Like,
I hope so.
But let's say, for example, that like, this goes into the whole consent part of games, which like Session Zero, setting boundaries, stuff like that. But a lot of people, like, World of Darkness, obviously not the friendliest place to play in by standard. You can, of course, alter that with your own game. But let's say, for example, the Red Moon role-playing, they're playing The Family right now.
Mm-hmm.
Red Moon role-playing, by the way, great actual place. They're voice only. And Matthew Dawkins was storytelling, and Jason Carl is one of the players.
So good.
I'm listening to their sacrifice right now. It's amazing. Something happened at the end of episode 8, which made me do the Pikachu face in real life. I was like,
so good. And I saw you tweeting about it.
I was literally like, did they do that? It's good. But what I was going to say is that Matthew Dawkins knows his players, and because it's a group he's used to playing with. And The Family has a lot of stuff that's dark, very, very dark. And his players are comfortable with it, I would assume. They most definitely are. But let's say, for example, that you're playing a character who was either like an addict, or had a friend suffer from an overdose or something like that, which is a thing that happens sort of in a character's past in The Family. That can, like, if someone's making fun of that in the game, like if the storyteller has a character like laughing at someone having an overdose, can trigger some really, really bad flashbacks and cause PTSD like syndromes. So that's why it's generally suggested that you try not to do a character who you might bleed into, or who might bleed into you. I have a personal problem. When I play the character for a long time, I get invested in their success, which means that every time they suffer ridicule, or every time they fail with something, I have to fight down the urge to feel like it's happening to me, which is something that you can manage, but it might never go away. And that's essentially like huge. It wasn't a no-no to include parts about yourself, but it can be risky, especially if you're not used to role-playing. Some people, like I saw in the chat, some people can ride that though. Like it can be cathartic or cleaning. Like, yeah, this is a controlled and safe environment for me to explore my issues or my inner demons or my past. And I want to do that. And the group is okay with doing that. Obviously, they have to be okay with that. But then it's what is it called? KBT? Is that what? Exposure. No, it's like exposure therapy or something.
Oh, exposure. Yeah. Immersion therapy.
Immersion therapy. Yeah. And that, like, if everyone is, safe words, everyone is cool with it, but it can go very wrong.
Okay. You're making me nervous. When you sent us the consent form over Discord, I was just like, I'm not, whatever. I didn't put anything down.
That's fine. Like, it's only there, and I think this is a big issue for everyone. It's only there if you need it. You don't have to sign the consent. Like, you don't have to put anything in there. But a lot of people complain about it because it exists, which I think is strange.
Is there just something everybody wants to complain about? Is this everything? Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's the internet.
Hello, welcome to the internet.
I made a very snarky post. I usually don't do that, but I was like, if your escape from reality is reliant on so many things being exactly in a very specific way out of your control, is it really an escapism then? Like, my escapism is doing something that someone else designed, and I cannot change anything of it at all. I feel like that's maybe not escapism.
Not really.
No. And I would like to say Primogen did a really great job setting up the consent form and everything, prepping for Stories in Chicago, because I've played in a lot of games. 99% of them do not do that. Often there are conversations like, what do we do, what do we not do, but like it's never quite as in-depth as that. So and especially with a Vampire the Masquerade, where we're just like steaming through it and trying to get some really, really punchy stuff in there. I think that was really important.
Yeah, because again, and also that's one of the dangers of doing something live as well on camera. Like, you never know if someone does or say something that can cause a lot of emotional damage to someone, and you have to be like, I'm okay on screen. And well, obviously you can always, just break the commercial or whatever, but you're really putting yourself out there when you're doing something live, and there's a lot of risk in that. Yeah.
It's weird. I remember Harry told me something like, let me know if I ever offend you. And I'm like, you can't offend me. He's so adorable. I think he's so great.
Harry's great. Gushing over Harry, the stream.
Oh my, I think he's so great. I really do.
Him playing Stan was simultaneously creepy and adorable. It's quite a feat.
Yeah, it's a Nosferatu way, You have to be in here. You're a sweetheart, but out there you're like, everybody hates me.
Didn't he like got like a critical success and like just grabbed somebody in an alley, right, who was on the phone, and then he calls them an ambulance. I was like, oh.
Nosferatus are like the teddy bears of Vampire the Masquerade, except when they're leather faces.
Except when they're not.
Yeah. But
that's super cute.
It's also like in my Changeling campaign that I'm running, the group essentially had to go into this tent to retrieve a gift that was given to someone else, and they had to steal it back. And this required some finagling, some like sleuthing, some stealth, and they sent in the two most chaotic goblins of the group, the Kitsu's character and Nate's character, Harry's character. I keep calling him Nate, who are very impulsive, very prone to doing whatever they feel like, and if there's a single little mistake in their plan, they just go, fuck it, and improvise everything. So I was like, all right, this is gonna go great. And it didn't go great, but it went great in another way.
Well, you said you don't run like really long stories, but you've been running Changeling for a while now, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been running it for a long time, since September, I believe. It started in September, so not super long.
That's a while.
Yeah, and every week. Been run every week.
Whoa, really?
It is a little bit taxing.
I don't know if I could roleplay every week.
It's not a format I'm used to doing, and at times I scribble maniacally when I get home from work because I have 2 hours before the stream is going live. So it's super fun, but I also have 6 players at the same time, so thankfully they can keep the game alive if I'm not giving too much input. But yeah,
That's right.
I might have taken
once a week, 6 players.
Yeah, 7
Whoa,
for
dude.
3 weeks in a row because we had a guest player.
Jesus.
How am I not exhausted? I'm fine. I'm fine. I may have taken on a little bit more than I can chew, but
yeah.
Yeah, that's.
Now, I want to hear about Josh games that he's run.
Yes, tell us about those.
I bet you're a really good storyteller. I haven't seen any of yours, but I bet you're really good.
I am adequate. I rely on my players because most of the time I don't know what's going on. My preparation is sporadic at best when I'm running. At the moment, I am running Chicago by Night for 6 players in a home game. It's not online, but we're not a particularly serious group. So one of the first things we did was the dumbass BMX Toreador has a rival who is a drag queen. So he challenged the drag queen to a BMX off. And what they didn't realize was that hiring a big half pipe outside of the venue wasn't the best idea because they also owned that entire area as their domain. So they basically hired it off them. And so the drag queen put on an entire show with sparklers and red carpet and like fireworks and big, those high beam lights. And then it was this guy on top of a half pipe in his helmet and the shot and the elbow pads going, "Let's BMX off. I challenge you." God. It was a really good time. Obviously, during that, the drag queens coterie were doing dodgy stuff, and there was a whole behind the scenes plot where the rest of the coterie were trying to defend him from getting mobbed by the crowd as the Toreador he was in opposition with was trying to rile up the crowd, and I had a great time because it was like this bombastic, ridiculous display in the middle of the downtown Chicago.
Sounds amazing.
And
it does.
The thing is, he won. He won the BMX
I'm
off.
proud of him. Yeah.
And Francois Manuels, she had an anger frenzy in the middle of downtown.
Oh, Jesus!
Ouch!
So that was fun.
Yeah.
That was funny. But he only won because he sort of doped. So that presence power that gives you extra dice. Lingering kiss.
Mm-hmm.
A vampire who just happened to turn up and was extremely generous. He was like halfway point, sort of losing. He was like, "I can give you the good stuff." And she turned up and was like, "Let me feed on you. You'll win. I promise. Then you owe me."
Wow.
It's disappointing it's not online now.
I don't think it would be understandable if it was online. It would just be like 6 people shouting at each other for 2 hours.
Yeah, that's the genuine, like, if you had a group for a long time, it becomes you develop such a strong culture within that group. Like, it's almost incomprehensible to new players unless you take them by the hand.
Yeah, you properly introduce a new person into your group. Absolutely. It's quite a high intensity group depending on how tired we all are.
Yeah, some games
Daddy Sheep Do in chat has mentioned that so I ran Bloodlust. I ran 2 seasons of Vampire the Masquerade show as the players were all thin bloods and they were trapped in a city by a magical barrier and all sorts of fucked up things were happening. And I had Sheepdog as my player and he kept on making such bad decisions, like trying to diablerize a really powerful Tremere, which he accidentally succeeded at.
Succeeded?
Well, via a series of messy criticals, he succeeded,
Oh, no.
and basically threw my main plot into disarray because I was like, "That's the main antagonist." No,
Oh,
no,
no.
it isn't. Never
Not
mind.
anymore. But here's Tremere number 2.
It wasn't even that. It was like, whatever. Everyone else hates you now. Yeah, so Sheepdog kept on giving me my NPCs because that character ended up with like 1 humanity in the end.
My God.
So like, that's
Oh my
Wow.
In V5 too. That's actually very hard to get.
Not in my campaigns.
I love it. Like, yeah, losing humanity is much harder, I would say, rule-wise in V5, right, than it used to be in the old.
Yeah, it's an interesting rule because depending on how you do it, some storytellers are just like, you do a thing, you lose humanity, as at the same time as using the stain system.
Yeah.
But the stains are kind of a self-balancing system, so the more humanity you have out of 10, the less room you have for stains. But the less humanity you have, the more room you have for stains, so the less likely you are to lose humanity. So it's like a self-balancing system, which I quite like, and kind of plays into the becoming a monster aspect without like immediately just tanking you into horrific circumstances.
And that reminds me of something that when I was creepsing in Josh's stream yesterday, I think it was yesterday.
I can't remember. Yes.
You did your Chicago by Night review? Was it yesterday? Or the day before yesterday? Friday. He was looking through the Oblivion powers, and next time when Marie is rolling around in the shadows and has to do a rouse check, we need to make sure that I don't get stains on my humanity.
That's right.
Because I forgot all about it.
Man, I forgot about that.
Did you roll any 1s or 10s though?
You've had a surprisingly low amount of bestial failures or successes.
I have no idea. I'd have to go back and watch it. I'm not going to do that.
It's just for your rouse checks, I think. Oh, right. So it's not for dice pool rolls. You lose. You get stains when you.
Besides checking if I'm hungry or not, as far as I know, I've done 2 rouse checks, and don't ask me what they were.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. It doesn't come up very often.
No.
But if you want to know my full feelings on the matter,
go check out his YouTube video.
Yes, we're shilling Josh here for some reason.
Yeah, totally. Well, we're streaming on his channel. Totally should chill him.
Of course, you should watch it.
It worked this time. The last 2 Beckoning episodes, I was setting up the thing. Everything was looking great, and then I pressed start, and it was like, no, your encoding is balked or whatever. It happened.
God, yeah.
That's the only 2 times it has ever happened. So I was just assuming that Outstar was hacking me.
Yeah, of course.
OBS is very
Outstar.
Like, there's so many numbers in there that I'm like, I'm not going to touch this stuff.
Right.
But I think it's interesting talking about real life groups as well, because I storytell Chicago. Like, I storytell 2 games live online. Stream 1 game online, no, 2 games online. One is with voice, another one is play by post. I have 1 game in real life, which is Chicago by Night. And the group that I'm playing in Chicago by Night with, we've been playing together since I believe I was 14, so that would be 20 years now. We are impenetrable in the way how we play, because we're so used to like playing off each other that we get started right away. Like, it just goes straight into character. And we've been playing in a setting that a friend of mine has been making for a long time. This is an aside, but I also want to kind of test the water, see how people like the idea of this setting. How familiar are you with 2 book series, Discworld and The Lies of Loch Lamora?
I know of Discworld.
You British.
Totally unfamiliar.
Shame on you. He was knighted, Sir Terry Pratchett. I guess a lot of people are knighted, but
I like Terry Pratchett. I'm not.
I know who he is.
Oh man,
is not my style.
I'm sorry. It's Terry Pratchett writes I would say satire and social commentary in a fantasy setting, to make it a long story short, and he gets more and more obvious about it the older he got, and the more bitter about it he got. It's amazing books. And Lies of Loch Lamora is essentially about this low fantasy city, essentially con stories like Ocean's 11, but in book format. Very well done. and we're playing in the setting called Varangia, which is supposed to be the city where a meteor fell several thousand years ago. And this meteor had colors out of space effects on local plant life. If you ate the plants, you lived longer. So these families grew up that had these specific plants they were living on. It's essentially a huge trade hub in the middle of nowhere. It's the melting pot of melting pots culture-wise. And we've been playing this setting for 10, 12 years. We've been playing everything from nobility to really, really, really low-ranking thieves who planned a heist that we couldn't possibly pull off, but we sort of managed to pull off. Like it's just a long history of doing stuff like that. And at this point, it's just we have so many internal memes, I guess you'd call them, that in like player behavior, character behavior. I don't think anyone would understand our communication if they sat in on one of our sessions.
Right.
So long story short, I relate. I could have just said that.
That's totally impressive though. You've been playing together for so long.
It's what happens when you live in a very rural area and you find some people to play with and you go like, you're mine forever.
My God.
People have come and gone, of course. Sometimes we haven't played for a long time, like a year or something, but then someone goes, hey, we should play again, and we get back together and we play. And if you have a real life group like that, treasure it, because that's rare. And finding a group online,
totally,
it's also rare. I have amazing people I play with online as well. A lot of them don't want to be on voice though, unfortunately, or they would be streamed as well.
Yeah, and I guess that's the crux of part of this episode of the podcast is there is a big difference between real life games and online shows. Even though it might not necessarily seem like it, because there is this third partner to the experience, which is the audience.
Yeah.
So you're playing for yourselves, but also to them. And sometimes they're in chat, so they have they're like an extra player.
Yeah.
So. And the thing is, you're all there to have a good time. So it's a different experience, but it's definitely not a bad one, and not one I wouldn't recommend to people who want to, have a good time messing around and playing TTRPGs with their friends.
Absolutely. I think there's a performance aspect that wouldn't necessarily be there in a home game. I don't know because I've never played a home game, but
you're absolutely right. I would say that LARPing is the best way to prepare yourself for a stream, because it's LARPing is so much more higher demand on you. Even though everyone you're playing with is in the same game, same world, at least Swedish LARPing is super serious. You don't break character. You don't wear the improper things. You don't if you have to break character, there's specific areas you do that or specific keywords for it. Tabletop role playing is like break character all the time.
I try not to break character. I've never LARPed either, but I've tried not to break character.
I don't think any of you broke character during. There's an occasional commentary from obviously the player, but I don't think we.
Kitsu makes me break character.
I don't think you guys ever went truly out of character. You were discussing stuff that maybe you might have been doing in character slightly different, but you were very focused during the game, and that's difficult. A lot of people.
There's no way Marie would be amused by Kitsu's antics, by Julia's antics, but I totally am.
That's all right. Maybe Marie secretly. No, not even that.
No. Seb thinks that Julia is hilarious. That's great.
Yeah, I see you always laughing at her when she's talking, and I'm like,
that's
that totally
all in
makes
character.
sense.
Yeah. That's all in character.
Sure.
And it's also Josh enjoying it.
But that makes sense. But it doesn't make sense for Marie, but I can't help it. She's so funny.
Mm-hmm. Although I was playing D&D last night.
Yeah.
And one of the characters was a goblin named Sausage, and he kept on doing very, very stupid things. I corpsed so much. I was not in character for that entire 3-hour
I love it.
session. I couldn't do it.
How could you possibly?
It was so hard.
Goblins and, to a lesser extent, kobolds are by their very nature the comedic duo of Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, exactly. He was like a dog, if dogs could talk.
Oh my god.
It was brilliant. But yeah, it is
it-
difficult sometimes.
And that's fine too. Like even if you're streaming, if you're having a great time, don't hide it. Because I think, oh, oops, sorry, I messed around a little bit with the display. If you're having a great time, like play into it, laugh at it. Like, what was the name of the kobold in Critical Role? Spurt. Like is it Chris Metzen? No, wait, hold on. Yeah, I think Chris Metzen. He's a D&D. Chris Perkins. Sorry, Metzen. I know. Chris Perkins.
Oh, Chris Perkins. Oh,
he joined Critical Role, and his character lived for 10 minutes. He played Spurt, the kobold. He had bees.
I've not seen that.
I urge you.
Me neither.
I urge you to Google Spurt the Kobold and just watch all the Critical Role animations on YouTube.
Totally.
About it. I have not laughed so much, and everyone they played in the game, off character. They were laughing their asses off, but in character they were horrified and felt so bad about it. And Spurt is always going to be my favorite guest character for Critical Role.
But I'm doing it now.
But it's
Spurt of the moment.
Yeah, Spurt with like a T, I think.
Oh, I'm streaming. I probably shouldn't be.
Oh,
yeah.
No worries. You can check him out afterwards. But
I'll watch that
Spurt
later.
is I would say it's a joke character, but they played it straight and it was hilarious. But I think they were scream laughing, a lot of them. So sorry. But there is a pressure. As soon as the camera goes on, as soon as you're having a microphone in front of you, even if you're a seasoned role player, I remember when I started streaming, and I still do, I get nervous, I flub words that I shouldn't.
Oh, totally.
Every time I start a new show, I'm nervous.
Yeah.
It just happens.
Yeah. You come to the point where you're like, okay, either I'm going to throw up or I'm going to do this. And
I feel like the whole time, the 2 sessions we've done, I feel like the 6 hours in total, I feel like I breathe through the whole time. And then finally when I shut the camera off, I'm like, I think as you notice when we're done, I'm immediately taking off the fangs and taking off the necklace.
The exhaustion is real.
Yeah.
Like I was playing on Blood City, which I dropped out of on Sundays. I think I mentioned this every time on stream as well. But I was dead. But I wasn't I couldn't calm down, so I would be awake for another hour and a half, but I was physically dead after the stream. And then I started work really early on Monday, so I came in drink. It's amazing. I love it, but I hate it. Yeah.
I don't know. Josh seems so cool playing Seb. He's just leaning back in his chair. He's got his little notepad. He seems so cool.
He's enjoying it.
Seb is a dumbass. That's why he's cool. He doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't understand the implications. So he's chill with everything.
I love Seb.
Great.
Yeah, it's something you kind of get used to the more you do it, but also the performance anxiety never goes away. If you're really into it, that it's kind of how you know you're prepped for it. It's how you know that
the anxiety is how you know
excited.
that you're ready.
Yeah. It's like it's performance anxiety. It's a thing that will never go away, but sometimes you relish, sometimes you hate.
Yeah.
But
I would love to be a fly on the wall, either with Matthew Mercer or Jason Carl. 1 hour, watch them before the stream starts. What did they do? What are they doing? Are they freaking out in a little room and it's coming out super cool? Because they gotta feel it too, right?
I don't know. Maybe the actors more so than I feel like. I don't know. I've never storytold. You guys are both storytellers. Maybe I feel like you guys would go into it a lot calmer than the actors who don't know what's going to be thrown at them at any moment.
No.
Storytelling's
Storytelling's harder.
It's the worst. It is the worst.
You have to. You're constantly reminding yourself.
Tell me, teach me.
I don't know. It's difficult to describe, but you're trying to prove to yourself that you know what's about to happen. When you don't know what's about to happen, the players can do whatever they want, and they will. So you've got all this stuff prepared, but you just want to be able to to be able to react and do something interesting, and then be able to throw out the story hooks and the characters, and then have someone do something in return. You're just like, please use all these things. And
for sure.
Like that is all that's going through your head in the or my head, at least in the 5 minutes before it starts. And then if you're running the show, you're also thinking about doing OBS and the tech and making sure the audio sounds good. So it piles up when you're storytelling online. I don't know about you, Chris.
Oh God, last Changeling game. I was, first of all, I was extremely tired because we've gotten the time slot from 10 p.m. to midnight. That's our time slot. So I'm tired after work. And I came home, and I still haven't figured out a good way to do the notes so that I will actually read them while I'm storytelling, because somehow I forget to do that.
Me too.
Yeah. Now, as you probably noticed when we played Stories from Chicago, is that I actually had physical papers. I had printed out like scene, number, and like the name, so I would hopefully remember to look at the papers for just a second to remind myself what was going to happen. And we were playing the last Changeling game, and I had... spoiler, that it's gonna come out on YouTube soon anyway. One of the players' keeper, the true Fae, like the big bad guys, shows up at the end, and I had planned things to go a certain way. Immediately, 5 minutes into the game, obviously, guess who does something unexpected? Harry Nate, just off the rails. A fire starts, everything just goes to chaos. I'm like, oh, fuck the notes. And last 20 minutes we have, well, a half hour actually, I am struggling to keep my eyes open because I'm so tired. And I'm like, oh shit, I had the scene planned out. Okay, I gotta do it. So I'm like slapping my leg to keep to wake up. And the players played it off amazingly well. But I think you can tell if you watch the VOD that I'm not at my top game, but I had to get that scene out. And just, for me, storytelling, the hour before the game starts, I feel physically sick. Every time I want to throw up.
I'm so sorry.
It's fine. I mitigated somewhat by having afternoon naps when I come home if I have time for it. But Josh, you probably recognize this as well. It's like, let's just cancel the game. You had that one thought at one point, like, no game today.
Yeah, they wouldn't mind if we didn't do it this week, right? Yeah.
And I used to feel this way even when it wasn't streaming. I used to feel this way about a lot of games I was running. And now when I go to games that I'm not streaming, I'm like, this is so nice. I can chat with people. We can have fun. It's like obviously I'm having fun with the streams, but like I have to be on point, 100% focus on the story. Now I can like, did you guys read that thing? Like, da. Can't have that in the stream, because we have limited amount of time. But I hope I'm not pushing that stress onto you as players, because that's really not what I want.
Not at all. You're so cool, calm, and collected. I would never have known that you wanted to barf right before coming on.
It's that's my secret. I always want to barf. But Stories from Chicago is, we did realize after the last session, like, all right, we're not going to be able to do it 3 sessions. Are you guys okay with?
Unless just Maria, I don't know, take Harry with me.
Yeah. No, but seriously, I think it would be doing you guys a big bad if I said, no, we're just playing one more session, because we need 4. And I really, really enjoyed episode 2 of Stories from Chicago, because you guys did a lot of interaction with each other. You planned out to discuss the pros and cons. You reached out to your contacts. You did a lot of communication that way. And
everyone got a little more backstory, I think.
Yeah. As a storyteller, those are my favorite moments, when you're just like, here, have a thing. And then for the next, hour sometimes, the players are just like, and you don't even get an edgewise word in, and you're just like, cool, my job is done.
Yeah.
They're entertaining themselves.
Can I spoil?
That's the best bit.
Yeah, I agree. Can I spoil a little moment from Red Moon role playing?
Well, you can for me.
Their sacrifice campaign. Have you seen it or heard it, Josh?
I heard of it, and I know of the sacrifice module Chicago by Night? Is it? I'm assuming it's based off of that.
It is a first of all, very good module. One of the absolute best I've ever worked with as far as pre-made adventures go. But there's a very key character. Like spoilers, huge spoilers for that one for now. So if you want to check that out, maybe skip this. But there's a key character in Chicago. It's been a key character for every edition. It's Genghis, or Jengis, however you want to pronounce it. Genghis is like the archetypical anarch. And he's also Champagne anarch. He's rich, but he still plays it like he's, you know, a punk rocker. He's got safety pins in his nose, shaved head, like he's hooked up with Antifa now in the new edition. They diabolized him in episode 8. And I was like, because that was just such a huge thing. Like one of the players just freaks out because he hates him, and he just sucks him dry, kills him off. And at the end of that episode, I think it was at the end of that episode, another character Vincent, he's freaking out because he's like, oh fuck, what? So he has this huge monologue, and he's been very introverted for the most of the game. Like, I get off Vincent's back, all right, because he gets so much shit in that game. I feel so bad for that character. But he has this little episode where he's monologuing, and it's perfect because Clara doesn't say anything for like 15 minutes. Because like, how are we gonna deal with this shit? And the character who did it is like, I don't give a fuck about what you guys are gonna do. I'll be fine. And one of the characters is like, oh, this is really bad. But Vincent is just freaking the fuck out, and I loved it. Really, really good scene. And like Josh said, Clara didn't have to do anything. They were just spinning onto what little stuff she'd put out there. Okay, spoilers are over.
Spoilers are over, peeps.
Yeah. But those are the moments you love as a storyteller.
Yes. Yeah. My favorite moments in LA by Night and Cult to the Blood Gods and all of the stuff that I listened to. I mean, one of my favorite moments in Vain Pursuit was Outstar spinning around basically in the car and going like, what do you do? What do you do? You know, that was one of my favorite moments.
Yeah.
Because that's what the characters are so important.
Yeah.
As much as the story is.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Player on player interaction is so important, and sometimes underrated. People are like, oh, what's the DM gonna do next? No one, players don't care. I'm gonna use the spell that I just got doing something stupid, and then this other player's like, no, please. And then that's where the meat of it is for me. Like most of the time, that's the stuff I relish.
Like in Critical Role, I think is a little bit the exception of that, because people are so invested into the characters, like the character interaction, the relationships, their histories, which are very well done. So every time I see someone doing fan art of Mercer, I'm like, yeah, because he does they all do an amazing job. But his binder, like he has stuff for everything in it. But he's been doing it professionally. And that's one thing people always should remember. He gets paid to do this. He's an amazing storyteller, but he also, thankfully, has the time and resources to sit down and plan it out really well and hash out with the players. There is so much talent online on YouTube. There are so many actual plays who get no views. There are so many episodes in the ether on podcasts, on Podbean. And it just, we're living in a time where we're surrounded by all this amazing stuff. We just don't have the time to enjoy it. And we're so scared of being like, oh, I don't want to invest 4 hours into this group because I don't know if I'm going to like them. Like, do yourself a favor. Go out, just search for actual play on Podbean or like Podcaster and just scroll down for 3 seconds and pick one at random and listen to an episode and be like, hey, you might find something you like.
And can I recommend something else? Like Huddy was saying, maybe start at episode 2.
Oh yeah.
Because episode 1s can be a bit awkward.
Yeah,
for sure.
People are getting used to the thing.
Yeah. I would even recommend people start episode 2 with the one that we're doing. Yeah. Because you do an excellent you do an excellent recap, if I recall correctly, of the first episode.
It's all in there.
And
Thank you. Don't start episode 2. Start episode 1. No, I'm kidding. Episode 2 has a lot more.
Yes, I'm sorry, the
interaction.
views. Yes, I'm sorry.
The views. Episode 2 has a lot more character interaction, and everyone's gotten kind of settled in. Also, Kitsu isn't blue in episode 2.
That's right.
That was a
Forgot about
driver
that, yeah.
issue, apparently. Kitsu looks like one of those photos you find in the window of a barber that's been there for like 40 years, so the sunlight has bleached it into blue.
Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah,
I didn't realize that that's where that
it was so
webcam
weird.
came from.
It was so weird, and we couldn't figure out what it is. It's like, oh, let's update the drivers to Windows 10. All right, now it works.
And plus, in episode 2, I'm pretty sure Harry's like constantly using obfuscate. I think he had a problem with his background or something. He's
the
constantly
green screen
disappearing.
was merging into his clothing. So it was very appropriate because he's Nosferatu.
It was totally, and I think I noticed like when we were having conversations, like suddenly it would start like he doesn't want to have this conversation. So that works for me.
Yeah, for sure. But I think it's like, and if you're a creator out there who do your own actual plays and you don't get any views, first of all, my first actual play, which is still out there, we got 3 views. I went in to look at the latest episode. It has 3 views, and I SEO'd so much for that one. I tried to spread it out. It was Dungeons and Dragons, oversaturated. We were unlucky in getting out there. Don't try to find it, please.
I'm gonna find it.
Me too.
And that's the thing with a lot of YouTube and Facebook and everything like that. The right time and place, you're gonna get attention. You could be doing everything right, like Picard says. You can play everything right. You can do everything right and still lose, if what you want to get.
The one thing I say about YouTube or Twitch or whatever is do it because you like making videos, or do it because you like making streams, because that is what you will be doing. That's what you're spending your time on. And there might never be, I guess, a reward in popularity or money even. Like, just do it because you think it's fun.
Absolutely.
That's what it's for.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we've been raised to think that we only matter because of how successful we are, and YouTube is a garbage market for that. If that's how you want to make it, I can only imagine the only other social media platform that's even worse for it is Tumblr.
TikTok.
TikTok,
I do
yeah.
an actual play on TikTok
as well. Like I got so many followers over the years on Tumblr, but they only followed me because I reblogged funny memes. Like as soon as I have anything on my own, they were like, yeah, so whatever. And that's not on them, obviously. But yeah, like you said, Josh, focus on having fun, focus on making something you're proud of, and if you get the attention, that's great. That's amazing. But if you're out there listening, listen to random stuff as well. Don't just listen to Critical Role and LA by Night.
Yeah, because if you enjoy Critical Role and you enjoy LA by Night, I promise you there are a lot of people out there that are having a lot of fun playing, and you might find a new story that you enjoy if you have the spare time. Which is the thing. Like,
which is hard with as many as there are.
Yeah, like Roll for It.
Yeah,
which or Bloodlost or
Vancouver by Night.
Stories in Chicago.
Josh, are you on Roll for It? And I know Mathis Games is on Roll for It. Are you?
I am a guest character on that one.
Yeah, someone recommended that to me in one of my videos, left it in my comments, and I went and looked at it, and I'm like, it's Josh. I'm
a creepy AF Tremere.
And so I like put it in my like watch later thing immediately. I just haven't gotten to it yet.
I'm gonna check it out too. And we have ATL by Night, Long Beach by Night is also a thing. Like there's a lot of really great stuff out there. And be kind. Not everyone is an actor. Like they're trying. Absolutely. You'll get into it.
And soon, like this Monday, I think. Wait. Sheepy, is it this Monday or next Monday? I'm starting Sunkissed, which is a vampire campaign.
Cool.
On your channel?
Not my channel. I will host it on my Twitch channel, but that will be on Sheepdog's channel. I don't know if he's still here in chat.
Nice.
Yeah. I'll be in chat. I'll be bugging you guys in chat.
Yeah. I'll check it out too. Ooh, it's been about 2 hours. I am exhausted.
Me too. I have to walk my dog.
This has been a really interesting conversation. This was a lot more personal, I think, than our previous videos have been. But that's good, in my opinion, anyway.
It's nice to know the person behind the creator.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think the plan is hopefully next episode we will be covering Bloodlines 2 and probably Bloodlines 1 because of the impending release this year at some point.
Yep.
So subscribe to the Primogen.
And we'll also have subscribe to the Primogen. We'll also have another Vain Pursuit episode to discuss, which hopefully will have more connections between the two games.
We'll have an actual connection because Outstar will hopefully be here, right?
Yeah, I hope so.
Hopefully.
Preliminary date 16th of February. Not entirely reliable. We'll see, but if it's coming out, we'll tell you. We try to do these bi-weekly, but it's hard getting 4 people together when there's a lot of stuff going on. Thank you everyone for watching, for showing up on this Sunday morning. And watch Josh's review of Chicago by Night.
Yeah, should we go around and say what we've been doing recently? Huddy, after you.
Oh, well, recently I've been just doing stuff on YouTube, Vampire Masquerade stuff, and playing Chicago Stories. And you can go check me out over there. I don't do Twitch, I'm sorry. Prim?
Oh, sorry. I'm doing a hell yeah in the chat. Sorry.
I'm dropping a hell yeah in the chat.
Yeah. I'm Prim the Primogen. Christian, it's my real name. And I do lore videos, Vampire the Masquerade and Werewolf the Apocalypse right now. I've done some Changeling ones. I am also occasionally streaming stuff, and I also storytell Chicago stories. No, it's stories from
Chicago. God damn it, I said it again.
Just rename it to Chicago Stories, then we'll be right.
I will. I'm going to rename it to Chicago Stories. It just flows much better. I also do Changeling the Lost Lilbrook Reunion on the Onyx Path on Twitch every Thursday at 10 p.m. Central European Time, so that's 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I think that's it right now. Yeah, that's pretty much it. You find me on Twitter. I'm very rarely on Twitch. Yeah.
Well, if you're watching this live right now, you can press the follow button and you'll see me playing video games and vampire stuff, and then more episodes of this, hopefully. Or you can go over to Strange Adventures on YouTube, where I talk about vampires and role-playing, and I am planning my own campaign and will hopefully be able to help you with yours in videos that I'm making in the future. I still have a ton of, I've got 30 ideas for videos to put on Strange Adventures, and I need to know which ones to do first. I have no idea. I'm just going to plow through them.
Blindfold and throw a dart.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm having a great time on Strange Adventures. Please come and hang out. My latest video is a review of the Chicago by Night 5th edition book, which I think is pretty damn great, with caveats.
Okay. I'm gonna watch it right now afterwards. And you guys watched the what do we call them? Spurt, the Kobold videos.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm doing next.
And,
Spurt the Kobold.
Tell me your reactions. And I guess we also have Outstar in this.
Yeah, you know.
Outstar will be joining us next time,
so
I imagine.
check out her stuff, I guess. Whatever. Thinking she's so great. We're not salty.